interviewing him on gross national happiness, its successes, and as a mandate of state. So Lynchin, sorry for the wait, but my first question to you is that you're known to many, but as the architect of G&H along with His Majesty the Fourth King. So what was your contribution to it?
Well, I wouldn't call myself an architect of the concept of G&H. It was entirely conceived by His Majesty, the former king, the fourth true Gelpo. What I have done is simply, as a faithful disciple, try to spread this message about a more holistic approach to development, about a development process that aims to meet the needs of the mind as well as that of the body.
Yes. Thank you, Lynchin. You're very modest by getting on to the questions. There is a significant amount of apathy, as there is with any concept, and skepticism among youth about the concept and implementation of cross-national happiness. What is being done to democratize the idea of G&H? How are academics, policymakers, and government reaching out to the grassroots to bridge the communication gap?
That's a lot of questions, put together. I think one of the skepticisms about G&H, as pursued by Bhutan and by the government in particular, the feeling is that this is being imposed on the people, and that the government pretends to be able to provide happiness, deliver happiness to the people, which is not the case. It has never been the intention of the government to deliver happiness to the people. The attempt of the state here in the country is to create the conditions that would enable the Bhutanese people to be able to pursue happiness should that be their choice.
That's brilliant. So it's more like creating the environment.
That's right.
Conducive to
Yes.
happiness. Okay. So what's being done to bridge that communication gap? Because you meet with many people who believe in the philosophy, but there's a communication gap there somewhere.
You are right. Here in Bhutan, that gap persists. And this is because initially this was a statement. This was the philosophy, the principle adopted by the government. Although it was an idea that came as came from His Majesty the King's visits, extensive visits around the country soon after he ascended the throne at the age of 16 and a half years. And he came to the conclusion that what the people really want, that the ultimate desire of every citizen is happiness, and if that be the case, then this is what we should do, that is to create the conditions. And so the government did this in a very conscious, mindful way. However, the government did not really go out of its way and tell the people, look, this is what G&H is all about. And so it was not, you might say, participative oriented. However, in the more recent years, we have been making an effort to take it right down to the grassroots level, to make the people conscious and aware and mindful of the importance of happiness and how it is important to be able to balance the needs of their body with the needs of their mind, the needs of the physical needs with the mental and the spiritual needs. And so presently there is the involvement of, let us say, the spiritual leaders, the teachers, the monks. The school teachers are actively involved, and in fact, beginning last year, all the schools have now adopted this philosophy, and the principals and the school teachers have been involved in designing a system, a process whereby the ideas and the principles could be imparted to the students.
Like value education.
Yes, and in fact in the process all the schools teachers and the students together have volunteered to make their schools green and waste-free.
Oh, brilliant. That's amazing.
Meditation has been started in the schools.
Yes. We saw during the presentation as well, right? Okay, so from the perspective of political philosophy, do you believe that gross national happiness is a holistic and unifying solution to the liberal, conservative and socialist divide? Do you think it's a superior way of viewing the world because it combines the three seemingly irreconcilable standpoints in a way that calls for critical assessment and judicious application?
Yes, I do. It is very liberal in that G&H addresses the needs of the individual, and in no way does it purport to limit and undermine the rights and the freedom of the individual to choose. It is socialist in that one of the main principles behind the G&H philosophy is equity and justice.
True.
Okay. And this has already served us very well, ensuring that the government is addressing through its policies and programs the importance of ensuring that the benefits of development are distributed equitably. And what was the...
Conservative.
Conservative, yes, in that G&H also ensures that values, the basic human values, spiritual values, the values of the family, the importance of the community, and so on, are promoted, preserved.
Thank you, Lynchen. Very good overview. So how is acceptable happiness-producing behavior determined?
Well, essentially, as I've been saying, happiness is something that you cannot really acquire or enjoy unless the people around you are happy.
True.
And so happiness is a state of being that you can achieve only through and by contributing to the happiness of others. How do you measure it? I guess in the way in which an individual is perceived to be contributing to the good of society, as opposed to how an individual is seen to be successful for the self.
True. So more like the Rawlsian idea of justice is fairness, where more fortunate take the less fortunate.
I guess so.
Okay, so it's about the collective, cumulative experience.
Yes.
So
hence the word gross also.
Okay, brilliant. So coming to the first pillar, I know it seems like ages, sustainable and equitable economic development. So how is the state limited in size so as to not crowd out the private sector or press down upon civil society?
Can you repeat that question again, please?
Okay, so how is the state limited in size so as not to crowd out the private sector investments per se, or press down on civil society, or to ominous presence?
Well, instead of dwelling on the theory of it, let me tell you what we are doing. Firstly, this government, guided by the philosophy of development, is committed to ensuring that the state or government does not become too large.
Yes.
We have this guiding principle of ensuring that the government remains small, compact, and efficient, and that to the extent possible, whatever is best managed and run and served by the private sector should be the role of the function of the private sector. And to that end, whatever be those functions that had in the past been carried out by the state, if these can be given to the private sector, outsourced to the private sector, then it must. And so, very consciously, we are trying to limit the size of the government vis-a-vis the other players and actors in society. We want to see the growth of the private sector. And likewise, while the formal existence of civil society as such has not been there in the past, we have now established the civil society organization, the role of which is to encourage the growth and then register and monitor the functioning of the civil society organizations in a responsible way. The idea is to ensure a small government.
And what percentage does it stand at now, and has it improved since the past?
Well, I will not be able to give you the stats on that, but let me say that the private sector has grown considerably in the last 5 years, 10 years, and it's growing proportionately. It is becoming bigger than the government sector. Presently, it employs, of course, far larger a number of people than the government does, compared to a situation which was quite the reverse in the last 10 years earlier. Mm-hmm. And likewise, the civil society organization, I think, still very small formally. It now numbers around, I think, 13 or so. Okay. And it will be growing.
Okay, that's brilliant to hear, Vincent. Also, the other extreme. How is the market constrained in a way which does not impede its efficiency, but takes into account individual welfare and externality costs? Well,
I think the growth of the market is certainly impeded by the philosophy and principle of G&H. For instance, there are so many possibilities for industrial growth and expansion, commercial activities that are not necessarily good from the G&H point of view, and as a result these have not been permitted to be established or to grow in our country. For instance, there are those who feel that Bhutan would be an ideal place for casinos. Mm-hmm. Okay. And likewise, there are so many industrial activities, chemical industries that could be established here in Bhutan, mineral-based activities far beyond what we have, wood-based industries of the kind that would devastate our natural resources, our forest cover and so on. These have not been allowed to ensure that Bhutanese growth is sustainable. Okay, and so it does limit the scope in terms of the growth of the private sector. But in a responsible way, the private sector has been growing, and there is a very good dialogue between the private sector and the government in terms of the importance of their assuming social responsibility and accountability. And it gives me tremendous pride and satisfaction whenever I meet the private sector, the captains of industry and so on, who speak about the importance of social responsibility. Of course, these have been quite clearly outlined in our economic development policy and incentivized so that the entrepreneurs will be able to take advantage of what is on offer with respect to those activities that are for the good of society.
Okay, so there are clear targets and incentives?
Yes. Take a look at the economic development policy.
Okay, brilliant. And how is equity arrived at or facilitated by the government?
Equity. Now, what constitutes equity? We have been very clear, at least presently, in confining or in limiting the scope of the in terms of interpreting what constitutes equity. And so, while this government was elected on a platform of equity and justice, equity from our point of view has been basically to ensure that laws are equitable, that they do not discriminate, they do not give excessive advantages to those who are privileged already, and so on. But at the same time, and in fact more importantly, equity is translated in terms of ensuring that all the basic infrastructure and social services and benefits as may be provided by the state are distributed and accessed equally. It is to that end that we have in the 10th five-year plan, which coincides with the life of this government, committed to ensuring that every GEO, the smallest administrative unit, there being 205 such, is accessible by motorable road by the end of our term, that every home is electrified, that every child is in school, every home has access to safe drinking water supply, that no health facility is further than at the most 1 hour's walking distance, and that every individual is connected in terms of telecommunications.
So, Lin-Chin,
thereby, this gives so the additional benefit of this equity,